You've eaten a Cobb salad, maybe last week. Maybe you ordered it because it sounded safe. Chicken, egg, bacon, blue cheese, no surprises. Here's what you probably believe. A Hollywood restaurant owner named Bob Cobb got hungry one night in 1937, raided his own fridge, threw some scraps together, and accidentally invented an American classic. It's a great story, humble, charming, very Hollywood.
Today I brought to you the history of Cobb salad, the first hands who assembled the first plate of Cobb salad. So stay with me.
It's also very likely not what happened. Because buried in the Brown Derby's own history is a second name, a chef's name, attached to a date that's 8 years earlier than the midnight snack story you've been told. And once you know that name, the whole legend starts to look less like a happy accident and more like a very old trick. Put the boss's name on the thing the staff built. Let's give the official story its due, because it's a good one. Robert Howard Cobb was the owner of the Hollywood Brown Derby, the restaurant shaped famously like an actual derby hat. One night, hungry, and it's nearly midnight, he goes into his own kitchen. He grabs lettuce, some cold chicken, a tomato, an avocado, hard-boiled egg, blue cheese. A line cook hands him some bacon. He chops it all fine, dresses it, eats it standing up. The next day, the story goes, his friend Sid Grauman, the man behind Grauman's Chinese Theater, asks for the same thing Cobb had. The salad gets a name. It goes on the menu. Hollywood does the rest. Charming. Self-made. A rich man's kitchen accident becomes an American staple. But here's the detail almost nobody puts on screen. This story has at least 3 competing versions. They contradict each other, and one of them moves the invention back to 1929, 8 years before Cobb ever supposedly opened that fridge. Something doesn't add up, and that gap is where this story actually starts. Here's the name you were never given. Robert Kreis. Kreis wasn't a customer. He wasn't the owner. He was the Brown Derby's executive chef, the man actually running the kitchen. And according to multiple food historians, it was Kreis who built the salad in 1929, the same year the Hollywood Brown Derby opened its doors. He named it after his boss. That's it. That's the whole act of generosity that erased him. Think about what that means. If this version is right, the midnight snack story isn't a memory. It's a myth that got written 8 years after the fact, replacing a working chef's kitchen labor with a folksy tale about the man who signed his paycheck. And this is where the pattern should feel familiar to you, because you've seen it before, in other kitchens, in other decades. The person with the title gets remembered. The person with the apron gets a maybe.
But Kreis isn't even the only name history tried to bury here. There's a second chef, and his story is stranger and sadder than Kreis's. Condouret was a trained French chef, a veteran of the 1939 World's Fair kitchens and one of the opening team cooks at the Brown Derby. And according to his own granddaughter, a woman named Marisa Perry, who has spoken publicly about her grandfather's work, it was Condouret, not Cobb, who actually built the dish, adapting it from a classic French salad called frisée au lardon. He added the chicken. He added the avocado. He made a French bistro plate into an American entree. Sit with that for a second. We're not talking about a vague rumor passed down at a dinner party. We're talking about a named family member, on record, making a specific claim about her own grandfather's uncredited work. Historians can't fully verify it. The Brown Derby's own kitchen records from that era are thin, scattered, or simply gone. And that's not a footnote, that's the injustice repeating itself in real time. When the boss's story gets written into cookbooks and the chef's story survives only in a granddaughter's memory, guess which one becomes the history? We don't know for certain whether it was Kreis or Condouret or some combination of both working in the same kitchen on the same restaurant's dime. And we may never know, but we know who the story left completely undisputed. The owner, whose name is on every menu, in every cookbook, in every syndicated salad in America. Here's the uncomfortable part. This wasn't an accident of memory. It was useful. owner has a stroke of genius is a story restaurants can sell. It's a story that fits on a menu, gets repeated by food writers, gets told to tourists standing outside a Hollywood hat-shaped building. Immigrant chef built a dish and got his name erased from it is a much less flattering story for the business that profited from it. And the Brown Derby profited enormously. By some estimates, the restaurant sold well over 4 million Cobb salads over its lifetime. Every one of those plates carried Robert Cobb's name. None of them carried Kreis's. None of them carried Condouret's. This is the same mechanism you've seen with other American dishes, a mechanism that has nothing to do with cooking and everything to do with power. Whoever owns the story owns the dish, and restaurant owners, unlike line cooks, are the ones who get interviewed, get remembered, get their names trademarked. Robert Cobb didn't have to lie necessarily. He may have genuinely believed the midnight snack story by the time he told it. Myths do that. They don't always start as deception. They start as convenient forgetting, and then decades of retelling turn convenient forgetting into fact. But convenient forgetting has a body count of its own. Somewhere there's a version of food history where Robert Kreis or Henry Condouret gets the same treatment Cobb got. Cookbooks, interviews, a name on a menu for the rest of time. That version never got written. And once you notice that, you can't unsee it on every Founder's Story menu blurb you've ever read.
The original Brown Derby closed its doors decades ago. The building is gone, but the name survives. Trademarked, licensed, sold on bottled dressing across the country, right now, this week, in your local grocery aisle. Robert Kreis's name is not on that bottle. Henry Condouret's name is not on that bottle. Marisa Perry, the granddaughter carrying her family's claim, isn't consulted when a restaurant chain calls its chopped salad a Cobb. And here's the part that should genuinely bother you. This isn't a closed case from the 1930s. It's a live transaction happening today, every time a restaurant licenses that name. Every time a cookbook repeats the fridge raid story without a single line about Kreis or Condouret. The myth isn't just old, it's still being sold. Compare that to how quickly Robert Cobb's name became permanent. One story, told by the man with the restaurant, ossified into fact within a generation. Two competing chefs' claims, backed by titles, dates, and a living descendant, still get a footnote at best, if they get mentioned at all. That's not really a story about salad. That's a story about whose version of events gets to survive. So go back to what you believed at the start of this video, that a rich restaurant owner got hungry, raided his fridge, and stumbled into culinary history. Maybe he did raid a fridge, maybe he was hungry, but the dish on your plate, the technique, the composition, the actual craft of turning a French bistro salad into an American entree very likely belongs to the men working the line underneath him. Robert Kreis, possibly Henry Condouret. Men whose names never made it onto a bottle of dressing. The next time someone tells you a founder's story, any founder's story about any dish, ask the question this video just asked. Who was actually in the kitchen? Because history usually doesn't remember the person who did the work. It remembers the person who owned the room.